Hey y'all, it's Tyra. This summer we are switching things up. Welcome to Summer Stories, celebrating our narratives. Over the next few weeks, get ready to be inspired as we spotlight some of our amazing listeners, sharing their own powerful stories. Because let's face it, Black girls aren't a monolith. Our experiences are as diverse as we are beautiful. So grab your favorite beverage, find a cozy spot, and let's celebrate our stories together.
My dad and I had a great relationship when I was a child, but when he was incarcerated when I was 12, things took a turn. Upon his release, I had to choose to rebuild a relationship with him and introduce the adult version of myself to him.
Few things are as powerful.
What is going on, beautiful people? You are listening to the Affirmations for Black Girls podcast, where we focus on personal growth and cultivating a healthy relationship with ourselves. I am your guest host, KP. I am a visual merchandiser in Charlotte, North Carolina. In today's episode, I will be diving into how I chose to rebuild a relationship with my dad in my adult years and how transformative that was for my life. This week's affirmation is I choose to make space for people in my life, regardless of kinship. I choose to make space for people in my life, regardless of kinship. One more time. I choose to make space for people in my life, regardless of kinship. This week's affirmation means that you have the full control to choose who is in your life, regardless of familial ties. You have the power to decide who has access to you and who you want to take up space in your life. Making that decision can be hard. I know it can. Because in the Black community, family is everything. We're taught that family might do you wrong, but they're family at the end of the day. But I'm here to tell you that you can take a step back from family. You can choose to not make space for family members in your life, especially if you feel that the relationship is no longer serving you or is detrimental to your mental health. You really have to understand where you are in life and where you are in your healing journey. For me, I had to look inward and really question myself about how I felt about my dad re entering my life, especially after his incarceration. I was 12 when he left, but at that current time in my life, when he re entered, I was 19, 20. I had to really say, how does that make me feel? How does that make KP feel? And in my life at that moment, did I feel healed enough to make space for him in my life? It was really a struggle and it was a really going back and forth of, but he's my dad. I should make space for him. But at the same time, it was like, do I feel healed enough? Is little KP, who was 12 when he left, that inner child of me, does she feel healed enough to accept him back into her life? I really had to make that decision. Making that decision required a lot of time, a lot of patience with myself, and patience with my dad, and him understanding that I might not be ready to just jump back into a relationship. I'm happy you're here. I'm happy that we're reunited. But there's some things that I got to resolve within myself that as a new adult, because 19 20, you're not a adult, but you're a new one. So I had to really say, I'm a new adult, and I'm starting to realize that some things in my childhood regarding our relationship, some things are a little iffy, and I have to work through that. So it took time and patience on both sides to really make the decision about whether or not I wanted to make space for him in my life. But before I could make space for him in my life, I knew I had to let the hurt go. I had to let it go. I couldn't make a fully formed relationship at that space in my life that I was at 19 and 20 if I was still holding on from hurt when I was a child, And I had to really examine, how do I let this hurt go? And how do I communicate that I was hurt in my childhood? Now, don't get me wrong. My childhood was great. I had a great relationship with my father. But there were times when I was hurt by my dad. And there were times where, as a child, I felt forgotten by my dad. And I had to really rectify that. I had to really come to my inner child and say, why are you hurt? What situation hurt you? And how can I help you as 19, 20-year-old KP? How can I help you, little KP, to move past this hurt so that if you want to, we can form a relationship with our dad? And it took some time. And I think it took I don't want to say the exact time, but because it was a couple of years ago, it's about 7 or 8 years ago. But it may have took me some months. And I told my dad, hey, I want to have a conversation. I'm not yet there yet, but I want to have a conversation when I am there. And he was completely open to it. And, I truly thank God, because I myself am a spiritual person. My dad and my mom, they're both spiritual people as well. So I thank God that my dad was open enough to say, you know what? You take the time that you need. I'll be here and we can have a conversation. Because he also had to heal some stuff within himself. And he had to take time to realize that there was some hurt that he did to people before he left. And I'm so appreciative that he was able to have accountability and hold space for openness for me to have a dialogue with him when I felt ready. So when I did feel ready, I reached out to him and I said, I'm ready to talk now. And we met up. And I was really able to express to him how I felt. But the only reason I was able to express how I felt to him is because we created a space of openness to have an honest dialogue about the hurt that I experienced from him. And we were able to create that space by him telling me, I know I did some things wrong, but I'm ready. I'm ready to hear whatever you have to say. It does not matter if it hurts. I am ready to hear what you have to say. And by creating that space for me to be honest and just get it out there, it made me really feel comfortable. It made my inner child say, okay, I can tell my dad that when I was this age, I felt like you weren't there for me 100%. So during the dialogue, I was able to be very open. I was able to confront the hurt and really say, this is how you made me feel. This is how you made the little girl version of me feel. And that is not okay. And you know what? My dad was like, I didn't even know. I did not even know that that situation hurt you. I didn't even know that I had did that to you. Because again, my dad and I had a great relationship when I was a child. There were moments of iffiness because of the lifestyle that he was living. There was moments of iffiness. But overall, I had a great relationship with him. So he's like, I didn't even know about those moments of easiness that I gave you, those moments that you felt forgotten by me because of my lifestyle. I didn't even know that. And he was like, thank you. Thank you. And when he said thank you, it really told my inner child, like, okay, I got it off my chest. He heard me. He understood me. I can let it go. And I knew at that moment when my inner child let it go, I was able to exhale and the conversation was over because I didn't want to push the conversation anymore. That's one thing about me. I know when a conversation is over. I'm not going to push it. And that's one thing you all have to understand. You have to know when the conversation is over, when not to push it anymore. If they're being understanding and you feel that release, that woo-ha, like woo, okay, you know the conversation is over because there's nothing more left to be said. But when someone is not hearing you, like let's say my dad didn't want to hear what I was saying, he wanted to be in denial. And he wanted to say, no, you had a great childhood. I was always there for you. You never went without. I was there all the time. Versus hearing me, if he wanted to do that instead of hearing me, I still would have had to make the decision to let the conversation go and to know that it was over. Because if you're not hearing me and that space of openness that we created at the beginning of this conversation has now been closed up so that there is no more openness, I have to know that I said what I said, but they're just not willing to hear me. And that's not my fault. Maybe they're not in a space of healing to confront that maybe they did do something wrong. And that is okay. That is okay because that's not my battle. My battle was with myself, allowing myself to open up and allowing my inner child to say, I am not okay with this person coming back into our life because there was some hurt there. I have to be okay that I did all I can do. But this conversation is not going anywhere because you don't want to hear me. And that space of openness is no longer there for us to have honest dialogue. And that just has to be what it is, you know? There's nothing you can do about it at that point. You just have to know that the conversation is over. It's over. Now we're going to backtrack a little bit because you hear me say that I confronted my inner child about how it was to let my dad back into.
Growing up, Black voices in media, though hard to come by, were my compass. Here at AFBG, Black representation is the very heartbeat of what we do. Representation isn't just about visibility, it's about carving out a space where Black stories can thrive and resonate. From pioneers like Oprah Winfrey breaking barriers on TV to amazing women like Viola Davis, Octavia Spencer, and Taraji P. Henson, who showed me that Black girls can command the screen. These Black faces and voices have been a guiding light in my life, not only by entertaining me, but also educating me and empowering me. And now, NPR brings you the next generation of influential Black voices in their new collection, Black Stories, Black Truths. Every episode is a living account about what it means to be Black today, each told from a unique Black perspective that is as nuanced as the Black experience itself. From Bobby Shmurda to The Wire, Michelle Obama to reparations, there's no limit to the range of Black stories, Black truths. I recently listened to the episode titled For Black Men, Barriers to Mental Health Care Can Be Complex, and I love how the host seemed to create a safe space for discussing these complex barriers Black men face when accessing mental health care. It was very refreshing to hear the classic NPR vibe, but with a soulful twist. Black perspectives haven't always been centered in America's story, but now they are the story because stories should never be about us without us. Listen now to Black Stories, Black Truths from NPR, wherever you get your podcasts. Let's talk about progress. Here at AFBG, we're all about embracing progress, big or small. We celebrate those little victories because they are just as important, especially on our journey to financial well being. Like setting aside savings each month, but still leaving room for that perfume you've been dying to have. Because here, we believe in treating ourselves, okay? And Chime is here to make that journey even smoother. My favorite feature Chime offers is Spot Me. It's fee-free overdraft up to $200, and you even get paid up to 2 days earlier with direct deposit. And let me tell y'all, it's like Christmas when that check hits early, baby. So say goodbye to those stressful overdraft experiences and hello to a financial institution that truly cares about your well-being. With Chime, you'll join millions of members working towards financial progress. Plus, there are no monthly fees or maintenance fees, and you get access to over 60,000 fee-free ATMs nationwide. Y'all, it's time to take more control of your finances and say goodbye to monthly fees. Open your Chime account in minutes at chime.com/affirmations. That's chime.com/affirmations. Chime feels like progress.
To my life and rebuild that relationship with him. I say that I had to go to my inner child because there's always an inner child in us that is yearning for something, or that is hurting, or that is unhappy with someone or something in our life. And we have to hold space for that inner child. We have to say, as an adult, I want to confront this issue for you, but only if you're okay with it. If you're not okay with it, if your inner child is not at a space to confront it, you have to be okay. The adult version of you has to be okay with saying, okay, I know that little Karijah, and that's my real name, by the way, that little Karijah is scared. But me as KP, adult KP, I am here for her. I'm going to protect you. And whenever you're ready to confront that hurt, I am going to make the space for you to do it. And I'm going to make sure that space allows you to be open and honest about how you feel. And that's all I mean by I was consulting with my inner child and I was really tapping in with how she felt. That's all I mean by that. Is I was holding space for her to make the decision to forgive my dad, to let the hurt go, and to express how she feels. That's all I'm saying. That's what I was doing. Now, another thing with your inner child, after you have the conversation, you have to check back in with your inner child to see how she is. How are you now that we've had that conversation, that we were able to get it off our chest about how they made us feel? How are you? What do you need from adult version of me so that we can move forward with them? My inner child needed me to make space for her to just breathe and to realize that she had gotten it off her chest, that that hurt was no longer there, that she could talk about stuff without crying. That's what she needed. She needed me to just make space for her, to just let her breathe, give her a moment. And I did give her a moment. I gave her that moment outside of my dad. So I did not communicate with him as much because I wanted my inner child to be able to really have a relationship with him and really process the conversation first. First and foremost, I needed her to process the conversation. And then I needed her to be able to let everything go and completely heal. And the only way she could do that was with minimal contact. So that meant that I was not calling my dad every week, or he was not calling me, and we weren't speaking every week for some time because she needed time. And once she said her time was up, oh, it was a different ball game. She was able to really say, you know what, Big KP, you got it now. I'm healed. Go on and have a relationship with our dad. This makes me happy to see. But she was only able to do that, again, because I held space for her to do so. I didn't try to shut her up in a little box and say, no, I'm 19, I'm 20 years old. That stuff when I was a child can't affect me. You shut up, little Karijah, you shut up. Don't bother me. I'm rebuilding a relationship with my dad at 19 or 20 years old. I could have did that, but I didn't. I made space for her. I realized where she was at. And I said, come on, you address the hurt. If you want a relationship with him, we'll have it. If you're not there yet, we're not there yet. So just hold space for her. She'll come around. She'll come around. And if she doesn't, she doesn't. She needs more time. But you, as the adult version of yourself, have to be able to protect her and hold that space for her, almost as if she was like your child. But after my inner child was able to, heal and take some time and process the conversation, she was like, okay, Big KP, you got it. Let's go have a relationship with our dad. And y'all, oh my God. I thought my dad and I had a good or great relationship before when I was little. But now it's a different ball game. That man is my best friend. I know in the Black community, our parents be like, I'm not one of your little friends. Hold on. Because now I'm 25, soon to be 26. Oh, honey, both of them are my best friends. As much as they don't want to admit it, they're my friends now because now we get to talk as adults. They really, my parents have always kind of talked to me like I was an adult. Little background. With my mom, I am the only child. With my dad, I am number 3 out of 6, and I'm the oldest girl. So for both of them, there's always been a level of talking to me a little bit more maturely. Never really shying away from stuff or having those hard conversations that they might feel like I'm too young for. It's like, no, she needs the knowledge. We're her parents. We're going to give it to her. So, yeah, but now that I'm an adult, we actually have a good time. My mom and I, we go and get dinner together. My dad and I, we talk. Oh, gosh. We talk all the time, child. We talk all the time. He is truly my best friend. My dad and I are a lot alike. We're both Leos. We're both only children on our mom's side. So we both have a little bit of only children syndrome. It's cool. We don't like to share. But yeah, we're both only children on our mom's side. Um, we both have a ton of hair, you know, and we're both like really laid back people until we get really excited about something and then we're like, oh my God. Ah. We're very excited when we get passionate about something. But if we're not passionate about it, we truly like laid back. So we have a lot of similarities, and he has truly grown to being my best friend. Um, and that's only because we had an open and honest conversation. I don't think we would be where we are now if 7 years ago we hadn't made the choice. Or is it 6? Ooh, let's just say 7. But if 7 years ago we hadn't made the choice to both be honest with each other and have a open and honest dialogue about the hurt I experienced from him as a child. So yeah, that man is my best friend. And I am okay with saying that because there are so many benefits to having my dad be that close to me. Like, oh my gosh, whenever I'm having trouble with something, I immediately call my dad. Well, let me not lie to y'all. I call my mama first. Then I call my daddy. Because you know what? If my mama tell me I'm not wrong, I'm not wrong. And when my daddy say I'm not wrong, oh, I'm really not wrong. But I usually call my mom first and then I call my dad because my dad is now an ordained minister. So sometimes I like to hear that perspective of what the Bible says, that godly perspective. Not to say that my mom does not give that. She gives that, honey. She gives it. But my mom is a little bit more real. Like, hey, out there in that world, And my dad's like, you know, in the Bible, it says, he's a little bit more calm. So sometimes I like to hear that approach. And that approach can be great for me because when he gives me his perspective about things, I'm able to really step back and be like, okay, Dad, I get you. And not to mention, having my dad in my life and having this great relationship with him, I'm able to call him about my car and be like, hey dad, got a flat tire. Where can I go? Cause he's from the city of Charlotte, so he know everyone and everything. So he'll be like, okay, where are you? And I tell him. And he's like, okay, just go down the street. I know somebody over there that'll get you right. So he's able to handle that for me. And I love that. So I'm just immensely grateful that we were able to have that conversation 6 or 7 years ago. And we were able to be honest with each other. So to close out this episode, I just want to leave y'all with this. Choose who you want in your life. No one can make the decision for you, regardless of familial ties. You have to make space for yourself and your inner child to evaluate and decide who you want to have access to you. No one can make that decision. Only you can. And you have to be confident in your decision, and you have to stand on your decision. Because having a relationship with somebody in your family, especially whether it's your dad, can be so beneficial. To close us out, I'm going to tell you what I'm reading, watching, eating, and doing. So I'm reading Black Girls Must Be Magic by Jane Allen. If you have not read the first book in this series, Black Girls Must Die Exhausted, please go do so. And then read the second book. And then there's even a third book. So I'm just reading the second book. I'm not really watching anything at the moment, so I'll tell you what I'm listening to. I'm currently listening to the Dark Times album by Vince Staples. Oh, I love him. So that album is on repeat for me. I'm eating kava. Oh my God, I'm eating kava a lot. I'm eating a kava bowl with the lamb and chicken with the pita chips. And I'm doing weightlifting and athletic training. I just recently hit a PR in my squat of 260 pounds. So yay! I thank you all for listening. And I want to send a very special shout out and thank you to Tyra and the Affirmations for Black Girls family. And I thank you so much for listening. Peace.
That is all we have for you, AFBG family. I really hope you enjoyed this Summer Stories episode. Be sure to check out the show notes of this episode to learn more about the guest host, and make sure you rate the podcast. Leave us a review and follow us on Instagram at Affirmations for Black Girls, on Threads at Affirmations for Black Girls, and on YouTube at Affirmations for Black Girls, and sign up for our newsletter. I haven't said that in a minute, but sign up for our newsletter. We have some amazing things coming for you. Be sure to tune in again next week. This is Affirmations for Black Girls.